lot to like for the Buckeyes, talent all over the field, but they've got to correct the issues that they had throwing the ball downfield. I don't know if it was totally JT Barrett's fault because the offensive line crumbled. You mentioned the Penn State debacle. Didn't have the playmakers that you would expect the Buckeyes to have on the outside. They need to find somebody that's going to make plays in absence of Noah Brown and Curtis Samuel.
Exactly. Last season was probably the most vertically challenged that Ohio State has been since Urban Meyer got there. They didn't have that Michael Thomas guy on the outside. If you remember a couple years ago when they won the national championship, Cardale Jones took over for Barrett at the end of the season, but their biggest strength was just attacking teams down the field and throwing vertical routes over and over again and relying on those deep threat receivers. They didn't have that a year ago. Plus, JT Barrett doesn't have necessarily the arm strength of a Cardale Jones to challenge defenders down the field. So you saw a lot of question marks surrounding Ohio State. I mentioned the pass protection. That was obviously a huge issue. Look, Ohio State, they've been in this position before, actually. If you remember back in 2006, they played in the national championship game. They were a great team. Heisman-winning quarterback with Troy Smith. They got blown out by Florida. They came back and made the national championship game a year later. So I don't want to overreact to what we saw in a 31-0 loss to Clemson. That was obviously the worst game that we've seen Ohio State play in nearly a decade. Certainly the worst we've seen Urban Meyer play in a long time. Thankfully, he didn't retire thanks to any health issues this time around. We're going to keep him here for another year, so always good to see that. But, look, I think Ohio State is incredibly talented. Mike Weber is one of the best running backs in the country, probably doesn't get enough credit. But I want to see more on that offensive line. And, Kent, like you said, JT Barrett challenge teams down the field, or else, in my opinion, we're going to see a similar team to what we saw last year, and that's a very talented team,